Executive Council meeting. Recall that yesterday I was here to tell you that the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday actually adjourned because there were so many items that were yet to be deliberated upon. So Council took a decision to adjourn that meeting, which continued this afternoon. Now this FEC meeting is now concluded and we are here to brief you. Of course, some of the things that we discussed yesterday are already out there in the press, but for the purpose of this briefing, I will still recap. Yesterday, recall that the first part of the FEC meeting was to swear in two national commissioners of the National Population Commission. Of course, I know that the media has already reported on that one. Again, there was also a minute silence observed for two members, former members of the Federal Executive Council who departed. The first one is Professor Fabian Osuji, who was Minister of Education under the regime of President Obasanjo. The second one, Dr. Obonaya Onu, former Minister of Science and Technology in the immediate past administration. May their souls rest in peace. Amen. There was also a discussion which you have already reported yesterday. It had to do with the approvals given to the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy as regards the procurement of buses. Now, what the Federal Executive Council agreed upon was that even though approvals have been given, but every procurement of buses, motorcycles, generators will now be CNG based, CNG or solar based, meaning that the federal government will no longer give approvals for MDS to procure any kind of vehicle if it is not CNG or solar energy based. This is all to deepen our involvement in the renewable energy sector that the President has already committed to. Of course, this being reminded that this also includes electric vehicles. So CNG, that is the compressed natural gas, solar, and electric. The Minister of Economy will give further details on that. There was also this encouragement that FEC gave that all projects awarded should be concluded within the time frame given, meaning that if you have, for example, road construction that should last 36 months, the Federal Executive Council is encouraging the contractors and the ministry in charge to ensure that there is that completion so that we can reduce the spate of abandoned projects littered around the country. Today, there was also a discussion around the Nigerian visa regime. Now, FEC has noted that our visa processes are becoming fairly cumbersome. And this is not encouraging investors to come in easily because, like the President has noted, the ease of doing business is also tied to the ease of visa application. Therefore, the Federal Executive Council has set up a committee to look at our visa processes with a view to reducing the cumbersome nature of these visa processes, meaning that those investors or tourists who want to come into Nigeria will find it a lot easier to come into this country, provided they follow all the laid down processes. This includes the e-visa platform that is already being discussed. The federal government is also mulling the idea of every visa application being processed within the next 48 hours. Of course, this is still work in progress. The Minister of Interior is working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Trade and Investment, and other stakeholders to ensure that these visa processes are done and dispatched with as quickly as possible. Now, these are some of the highlights of the things discussed, and I will bring in this, of course, is in addition to the approvals given to ministers here, Minister of Transport, Minister of FCT, Minister of Works. So on my far right is the Honorable Minister of Works, distinguished Senator Dave Umahi. I have also the Special Advisor to the President next to him on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Nanuga. Sitting close to me on my right is, of course, the Honorable Minister of Economy and the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy. To my immediate left is the Honorable Minister of State, FCT, Dr. Maria, and to my extreme left is the Honorable Minister of Transportation. Now, let me bring in the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, who is not just going to talk about some of the memos that he has presented, but also the notes that he has given. There is the issue of the report that he has presented to Council that is focusing on the partnership that the federal government wants to deepen between private investors, especially in terms of the infrastructure and housing investments that we have in this country. He will give detail on that. Let me now bring him in.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for information. Distinguished colleagues, Honourable Ministers here present, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I think it is no longer news that the Federal Executive Council meeting has mandated that some of the procurement, and it used the instrumentality of my presentation of some requirements, in this case for the Customs Service, regarding vehicles that they need. And as a result of the conversation, we have now have a mandatory rule that renewable and the transition fuel that gases and then renewable fuels, solar, electric, are to be procured by government, and also for generators as well. And this speaks to government's commitment to climate action, and it speaks to our interest in also benefiting from the huge resources available to assist in climate transition. There will be carbon credits to be captured and to be monetized, as well as the fact that we'll have cleaner air, and most importantly of all, because you know CNG is a presidential initiative. Funding has been made available for buses, for assembly of buses locally that use CNG, as well as for conversion kits so that existing vehicles can be converted. And when you say CNG, you mean biofuel. It can run on petrol, it can run on CNG. But the important thing, CNG is about 25, 28, less than 30, just under 30% cheaper. And that is a big boon and a big reason why mass transportation fueled by CNG is a major intervention of Mr. President on behalf of, in particular, the working classes, the urban workers in particular, but Nigerians in general. That is a policy that will be implemented robustly. It has multifaceted gains. Let me move now to speak of another item that was presented for information and noting and discussion to the Federal Executive Council today. And the backdrop is that against the context of Mr. President's macroeconomic reforms, which are necessary and and could not be delayed a moment longer. They were already delayed. Those reforms which are still in process and which are beginning to give benefits in various areas, particularly in terms of trying to stabilize the economy, the exchange rate, bring inflation down, and eventually get interest rates down. But on the other hand, Mr. President has been consistent, and he has also been commended, I must say, both around the world for the fact that he's committed to intervening on behalf of the poor and the vulnerable in order to ease the pains of this necessary reform. But at the same time, given where we are in terms of stabilization, it is time to focus on economic growth. And one of the key drivers of economic growth is investment in infrastructure, in housing, power, rail, roads, water transport, even technology. These are key drivers of economic growth. The increased when you invest in them, you get increased productivity, you get economic growth, and you get job creation, which reduces poverty. And that is the strategy. So it's two-pronged. And we are now pivoting towards this all-important growth. And you say, where will the resources come from? Nigeria is resilient. Nigerians are resilient. And the fact is that even before we start looking to foreign investors, we start looking to foreign funding, there is available in Nigeria long-term funds to fund infrastructure projects. And it's within the pension, life insurance, and investment fund industry generally. There is upwards of 20 trillion naira available, and much of it is in short-term funding that it doesn't need to be. Pension money is long-term. People save over their lifetime for their pension. And so, in conversation, in consultation, collaboration, and cooperation with the private sector, we are now able to announce, and with the full knowledge and support of all parties, that there will be an initiative to fund growth through investment in infrastructure, including housing, provision of mortgages, long-term mortgages, 25-year mortgages at relatively low interest rates. Initially, of course, the government will stand back and provide some support, particularly in this era of high interest rates. But eventually, as interest rates come down, there should be less role for the government through providing, for example, guarantees and so forth. So we can look forward to these huge funds being leveraged with the expertise, the ability, the capacity of the private sector partnering with government to drive economic growth. On the supply side, construction of houses will be funded. On the demand side, mortgages will be made available so that those constructing houses have an outlet. And Nigerians who are saving so much by way of pension funds have the added bonus of access to affordable mortgages. That really is the long and the short of this initiative. And you also, as much as anybody else, can understand and see what a boom in the construction industry would do for the country. That is the plan, that is the target, that is the hope. And in this particular case, you have the best and the brightest that Nigeria has to offer, putting their minds together and committing to achieving this goal. Thank you.
FEC approved a total of 12 memos from Ministry of Works, starting with the award of contract for the construction of Ishiei to Okeho and construction of Okeho to Igana Road in Oyo State. The project was awarded in 2020 by the past administration, reviewed in 2022, and we had to do augmentation because of the change in prices of basic materials. FEC also awarded Section 2 of Phase 1 of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Let me just throw a little light on this project, against what anybody might be saying. First and foremost is that ESIA was obtained by Ministry of Works from the Ministry of Environment, 23rd of December 2023. That's the first approval. And second approval came in March 28th and further renewed in April 24th, all this year. And so the ESIA is a continuous process. The final certificate is given when the job is totally done or about to be concluded, so that all issues are, sorted out. And we've been doing a lot of engagement. I participated in 2. Today, they are also doing another one. So this Section 2 of that road, that's going to be procured in sections. And the procurement also followed the, procurement process. There are 3 kinds of procurement. There is the one you do competitive bidding by advertising. There is one you appeal to BPP and do what is called selective bidding. And then you list the number of contractors that you want to bid. And there is one you do what is called restrictive bidding. And that's what FEC approved first before the procurement started. And they said it was not listed in 2024 budget. Yesterday, exactly, I quoted the budget number. And so everything about Coastal Road followed the, due process. And then we also had approval from FEC on award of contract for Kota Cafe Abaji Road. It's a section that was abandoned by Bulletin, so it's going to be redone 60 kilometers with concrete. We have approval for augmentation of contract for the scoping and completion of outstanding works in the habitation of Nasarawa Local Road with Alusi Lope in Nasarawa State. We also have, approval, for BUA to do 3 sections of the local Jabinin that are in a very bad state. The president approved a total of 60 kilometers under tax credit by BUA to do it, and the work is ongoing. We also have approval for intervention projects, about 4 intervention projects. We have the Bini Abo, you have the Bini Bypass, you have the projects in Kwara State, Itesi in Kwara State, and then you have the Malando in Kebbi State, approved, as an intervention project. And we also have approval for Kano Northern Bypass route, a total of 74 kilometers with 6 bridges and 4 flyovers. We also have approval to ban all dredging activities, 10 kilometers from every federal government bridge, 10 kilometers upstream and 10 kilometers downstream. There shall be no harvesting of sand of any sort because it's exposing our piles. And we have also approval to construct a road from southeast. There's a road that is running from Enugu, Abakaliki, Ogoja. It's one of the spurs of, this coastal road. And so we have a road that is tearing off from there, from the Abakaliki axis, and is going to Benue State. From Benue State, it will come to Kogi State through Benue-Kogi River, and then it will cross over to Nasarawa, and then to Apo in Abuja, a total of 461. FEC approved that the procurement process should get started. We also have approval for the construction of Sokoto, Ilela to Badagry in Abara, in Badagry, Lagos State, a total of 1,000 kilometers. FEC approved that the procurement process should also start. And finally, we had 2 projects we redesigned, and that's the road in Eleme Junction to Ne. It was designed for flexible pavement, but we redesigned it for concrete. So we needed FEC to give approval after BPP had given approval, and they did. And we have 3 roads also from Benin to Warri, and being done by 3 contractors. We also felt that flexible pavement asphalt will not be sustainable on that road. So we redesigned it on concrete. And the 3 sections are ongoing on concrete, same with LMA One. So these are all the approvals we got from FEC today. Thank you.
I mean, where we are now, interest rates are elevated. Clearly, they are not the kind of rates that someone who is trying to pay a mortgage and trying to pay for the purchase of a house can afford, both in terms of the tenor of the money and the rate. We're talking about, give or take, 12%. I would say give or take 12% should be the target that we aim at, something that's affordable. And it will take the creativity of the whole, all the stakeholders, government, the private sector, Federal Housing Authority, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, Federal Mortgage Bank, as I said before, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, the pension funds, the investment funds, the insurance funds of life, the long-term pools of money for life insurance investments. The whole ecosystem will need to come together to really get the housing sector going through affordability of housing. All the other ingredients are there in this country. So it's a veritable area for value-added employment and growth of the economy. Ruth, it's when you say what type of funding will it be, clearly it is in the main part debt funding. And what it is, there will be intermediation. And when I say intermediation, I mean there will be a passing. So the long-term funds that is in the hands of the institutional investors will be made available through vehicles, probably through the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, or for mortgages, and through the National Sovereign Investment Authority for housing construction. Their expertise is in these areas, and so it is debt financing, and there will be multiple vehicles that are used. As for CNG buses, the infrastructure is being rolled out. At the moment, there is already an initiative, and I did have the privilege and the opportunity just last Friday to be at a assembly plant for production, assembling from semi-knockdown parts, assembly of mass transit CNG buses, and it's actually bi-fuel. It can run. These can run on petrol and they can run on CNG. The issue is that CNG is almost between 25 and maybe 30% cheaper, and that's a veritable saving for all those that, and so that will be reflected, of course, in transport costs and, of course, the affordability for people who even drive themselves. And as for Kunle Business Day, the procurement is on. 600 buses are on their way, and as I said, they are not all to be purchased fully built. There's also a large portion that all the assemblers that are available in Nigeria have been given business, they've been given orders. Also, there are about 30,000 conversion kits coming in. There is no policy of, in fact, it's the opposite. The policy, as was announced by the Honourable Minister for Information, is that not only is the intervention to bring down fares and cost of transportation and therefore cost of living for Nigerians as a whole through the government's presidential compressed natural gas initiative, but now it is a government procurement policy. And I don't think we have to look far or examine in detail before we can see the opportunity that this now gives in Nigeria across the whole value chain. Thank you.
Well, there was a question about charging points. The man from Radio Nigeria.
Radio Nigeria. Yes, sorry, I abbreviated, trying to save your time as much as anybody. I abbreviated by talking about infrastructure. Of course, infrastructure includes charging points. And I must say this also, at the same time, the attempt is being made to move to electric vehicles. So the infrastructure for electric vehicles, charging points, it's a business. If you set up charging points, people will come and patronize you. Similarly, there is a rollout, and I'm sure it will be announced this month. There is a rollout of infrastructure of places where that are being tooled at the moment so that they can refuel CNG. And of course, as I said earlier, there's the opportunity. There are 30,000 conversion kits coming in. That's through the government initiative. And any private sector person that is enterprising can also bring their own. You can convert Keke Marwa, you can convert buses, you can convert cars to CNG. You just put the fuel, they put the tank in the boot, and you are virtually ready to go once they've wired it up. So it is a huge opportunity, and it's a decisive move, even for climate change. And there are benefits to be had there, enormous economic benefits to be had. All around the world, the biggest funding available is for anything to do with climate change, climate adaptation, protecting the environment, transiting from fossil fuels, transiting away from diesel and petrol. And we are definitely on that track, and we will make use of every opportunity, and we will seek out all the options there are for capturing carbon credits and putting them into the market and being rewarded with funding. Thank you.
Gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Federal Capital Territory has gotten 4 approvals as the just concluded Federal Executive Council meeting under the chairmanship of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. The first approval is for the award of contract for the development of bus terminal and other transportation facilities in the Capital Territory. Secondly, is the approval for the award of contract for the construction of Court of Appeal, Abuja Division. And number 3 is approval for the award of contracts for the provision of security operations and maintenance of backup generator for the street lights along Presidential routes and Villa Gate 8, Federal Capital City. And lastly, the 4th approval is for the upgrading of Koitai-Ebu Road in Kwali Area Council. And all the necessary due process for the procurement procedure has been followed, and certificates of no objection has been obtained for all the awarded approved contract. Thank you very much. Yes, I do have costs and contractors, but I just take little out of what we presented. The first one for the bus terminal, it was awarded at the cost of 51,25,172,424 naira 96 kobo, and it was awarded in favor of Mr. Planet Project Limited. Then the second one is in favor of Visible Construction Limited at the cost of 37,259,530,881 naira 14 kobo. And the upgrading of Kwali Ebu is at 7.6 billion in favor of El Amat Nigeria Limited. So this is what I have. Generator? Okay. The generator and also the security, there are 2 things attached to that memo. Issue of security operation and maintenance of the backup generator, and it's at the cost of 412,352,800 naira, and it was awarded to, who is the contractor? Contract People, Messiah Contract People Limited. That's the name of the contractor. Thank you.
I just want to throw more light on this conversion that was asked by my brother and friend, because the issue seems to be a topical issue. What the federal government is doing in conjunction with the National Institute of Transport Technology is to start the conversion. We have recently done it for patrol vehicles of the Nigerian Army and some of the ministries, departments, and agencies. And it is not only limited to federal or state government, it is also extended to private individuals. We have one center in Abuja here, we have another center in Zaria, and by the grace of God, we are going to have a conversion center in each state of the federation. The conversion have a mechanism that you are going to switch from CNG to petroleum if you are in a difficult terrain where we don't have the CNG centers. And where you have the CNG center, you switch from petroleum to CNG, just to shed more light on what my colleague, the Minister of Finance, has said on the conversion thing. Thank you very much, Minister of Information.
Speaking to two critical approvers for the digital economy and the technology startup ecosystem in Nigeria, I think the first one is something every one of us in this room should be interested in, which is the approval for the setup of a special purpose vehicle, which is a public-private partnership to deploy 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable across Nigeria. For those who follow the development within the telecommunications space, Nigeria currently has about 8 submarine cables, which we're only using to about 10%, and this affects the quality of internet that we get across the country. So this approval means that we will now, in the next 2 to 3 years, be able to deploy 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, taking the total in the country to 125,000. This will make it the third longest terrestrial fiber optic cable in Africa after Egypt and South Africa. And the significant implication of this for of course, our economy is also the fact that the price of internet is projected to reduce by about 60%. The price is projected to reduce by about 60%. And also bear in mind that for every country with a good coverage of connectivity, Nigeria, for instance, is being projected to see a 1.5% growth in GDP, not just in the sector, but across board, due to this investment in the following 4 years after its completion. We're also projecting that if we're able to cover the entire country through this scheme, we expect that we can begin to plug the non-consumption gap in connectivity. If you follow carefully, you'll know that we have over 200,000 educational institutes, government offices, and critical infrastructures like hospitals that are at the minute not connected. So if we're able to deliver on this project, it will give us the immense opportunity to connect all these critical institutions. So this is something that is, of course, of significant importance for the digital economy and all the companies within the sector, but I think for Nigerians as well. The second one is more specific to the technology startup ecosystem in Nigeria. Also being the first for any country like in Nigeria, in Africa, the FEC has approved the conversion of the Nigerian property in San Francisco, USA, to become the Nigerian Startup House. So that building is going to be converted into Nigerian Startup House. And for those who may not know, the San Francisco Bay Area and the nearby Silicon Valley is recognized globally as a major source of startup ecosystem funding, with a combined GDP value of over $929 billion. That's the combined GDP of just that area in the US. And this is where most of the investors in technology startups are based out of. Bear in mind that these investors, I think last year, invested $1.3 billion into technology startups in Nigeria. And our goal is that by setting up in the area, we can help to increase and improve the FDI to technology startups from the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you so much. Thank you.
At the Federal Executive Council meeting today, 3 approvals were secured to further strengthen our power infrastructures across the country. This is in further reflection of this administration's commitment to provide for the citizens stable, functional, and reliable power. The first approval was actually for the contract for procurement of 10 numbers of 500 kV, 33 kV, 415 volts Atin transformers and 10 numbers of 33 kV Atin reactors for the transmission company of Nigeria. The total sum of this procurement is actually about $4.8 million and 112.8 million naira. Now, the impact of this Atin transformers and reactor is actually to enhance the optimum performance of the national grid, as we have witnessed incessant collapse and disturbance on the grid. This will go a long way in strengthening and expanding the grid. It will also protect all the electrical equipment and the personnel from the effects of ground faults in our transmission substations across the country. And then lastly, it will reduce the risk of electrical shock, equipment damage, and power outages caused by ground faults. The second approval, which is also in terms of stabilizing the grid and expanding the capacity of the grid, was for the award of contract for the construction of 93-kilometer transmission lines at Oji River, 9th Mile, Nsukka, for the 132 kV double circuit transmission lines, which we believe will go a long way in stabilizing the national grid. And it's also in line with our national grid expansion plan by Mrs. Fitchner, which was actually submitted in year 2020. And it is also in line with the Presidential Power Initiative to increase the end-to-end capacity of the national grid. The cost of this contract is actually about $33.9 billion and 10.1 million naira. That's the local component. The first one I mentioned was actually $4.8 million and 112 million naira local component. The third has to do with the approval for the award of contract for the supply and installation of 15 units of emergency restoration system for our 330 kV and 132 kV transmission lines. This emergency restoration system will enable us to fix all the vandalized and damaged power infrastructure across the country. This is a cost that was actually brought about by the impact of vandalization across the country in terms of power transmission assets. We are aware of what is happening in the Northeast today. In the last 2-3 weeks, they've been in blackout because of vandalization activities of the people there. And the Transmission Company of Nigeria has been trying, working day and night to ensure that they fix these vandalized assets. And we hope that before the end of the month, we should be able to return normalcy to the power situation in the Northeast. And this is one of the steps to show that the government is committed to ensure that the citizens enjoy 24/7 uninterrupted power supply at the end of the day. In addition to that, we also need to look at the cost effectiveness, the stability and sustainability of our power supply, and the plan for us to grow power generation output in the years to come, which is why an emphasis was made at FEC today that we need to incorporate renewable energy into our energy generation output, especially in the areas of solar energy. And we all know that Nigeria is blessed with very good sunlight in the northern part and some part of the southwest, even some part of the southeast, which we're able to leverage on this gift of nature to ensure that we boost our power generation output. We enjoy close to 10 to 14 hours of sunlight in the northern part, in the middle belt, and the southwest of Nigeria, with very effective and efficient solar array, even better than what is obtainable in Europe. So we should be able to leverage on this and encourage both government, the private institutions, and our citizens to start incorporating solar energy into our energy mix. And we spoke about the provision of a solar mini grid and microgrid for isolated government institutions and public buildings, especially our military formations, our educational institutions, universities, our institutions in terms of the teaching hospital. This will not only reduce the cost of energy, it will also sustain stability of energy. And beyond the solar energy, we spoke about the possibility of a wind source of energy. Along the 9 coastal states of Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Cross River states, studies have shown that we have very effective and efficient offshore wind. And the construction of this, the coastal road, will also encourage, the establishment of solar farms along these coastal states that can also give us very good source of wind energy. And this is not just a matter of utterances. We have started this in a rural electrification agency under the Ministry of Power, whereby a number of public buildings are running on solar. And we have also started establishing some mini and micro grids in our universities. About 7 of them have been completed in the phase 1, and we are moving to another 7 in the phase 2. The number of them will be commissioned by Mr. President. And I also want to conclude by saying that there is opportunity for investment for Nigerians as well as foreign investors when it comes to issue of renewable energy in terms of the value chain for the production of equipment being used in this renewable energy space. Talking about solar panels, talking about establishment of battery companies with the huge deposit of lithium that we have in Nigeria, and this will create a lot of employment for our teeming youths. And lastly, incorporating this into our energy mix is also in line with our energy transition plan of achieving the net zero emission, carbon emission by year 2060. So these are the approvals that we got from FEC today, and I believe that the government has displayed its commitment to provide to its citizens stable and reliable power infrastructure. Thank you very much.
For the aviation sector, we presented 2 memos and got 2 approvals. The first approval that we sought and obtained is in respect of mandatory payments of access fees by all visitors at our federal airport toll gates nationwide. No more exemption. No more exemption. When we came to office, we met a tradition on the ground where at the end of the year, all manners of VIPs would approach us for what they call complimentary ticket, or complimentary e-tags, or complimentary stickers, whereby you see them coming into the airports, our airports nationwide. They don't pay the access fees. They don't pay for parking. They don't pay for essential services at the airports. And they are VIPs. And I told myself,
and my team, I said, not under my watch. It will not happen. If this tradition had been existing for years, I will not allow it to happen. Because it is inconceivable that in our country, it is the VIPs that don't pay for services, but it is the poor men that pay for services. The VIPs who are supposed to have money don't pay for services, but they compel poor men to pay for services. And I said, no. So I got my team together. I said, we need the backing of council to compel everybody. In fact, guess what? Our memo says, with the exception of the president and the vice president, the president overruled me. He said he and the vice president will pay. He said everybody. Let me give you the shocking statistics. Shocking. The negative figure that we get at the end of the day from the complementary e-tags we get is 82% negative, in the negative. In other words, where we're supposed to have 100% income from these e-tags that we print, it is only 18% that will now end up selling. That is how bad it is. 18%. And 82% of these e-tags are given out free of charge to VIPs. So imagine the loss in my sector. And I ask myself, which other sector will I go to that they give me anything free? Is it because I'm a VIP that you say that in FCT I should not pay land charges, that they will waive it for me? I pay for that sector. I pay my power. I pay for power. Yes? Yes, I pay for every other thing. I pay for information. Yes, I buy my papers. So why would everybody now come to my own sector? I want to get free passage. Not possible. That is how bad it is. So, and this has led in the past to loss of billions of naira, not millions, billions of naira annually because of this. And yet, our airport infrastructure, they are decaying. I am helpless. I'm looking for concessionaires. I'm looking for help for decaying infrastructure. And they will be the first to cry out, these same VIPs, why are your toilets like this? Why are your toilets smelling? Why can't you do this? Why? They are the same people. But they don't pay for the services. So if we want improved infrastructure at the airport, we must pay for services. I'll give you another example. In one gate alone in Lagos State, one of the access gates, based on the count of the barrier going up and down, it counts like a machine that counts. We are supposed to be making 250 or 60 million from that gate every month. That gate, because of exemptions, they return to us less than 100 million every month. Loss. And that also, of course, breeds corruption too, because now you cannot have the audit trail of those free tags that you now give to our people to give out to people. Either they sell it at half price, because in a year, the ones we sell, yearly tags, at time maybe 1 million or 1 million plus, that gives you access to parking, to access to everything, so nobody will tow your car. So we can't keep an audit trail of these tags that we give out. Some will now go and sell it at half price. Some of the, maybe civil servants or those we give it to give out to people. So there was really no need to continue with this. I can go on and give you the figures, but it has led to massive loss in the past. And luckily, council agreed with us. Mr. President agreed with us. And Mr. President said, remove me from the exception and Vice President. Everybody should pay. So please divide the SGF. It was approved that the SGF should send a system-wide circular to everybody. We are going to also write to everybody, be it the judiciary, the legislature, the executive, the military, high command. They can buy for their personnel yearly. You don't have to pay for every time you pass. Buy yearly, the yearly tax for all your officers. You have the money, pay us so that we can improve your services at the airports. Thank you. The second one, we got a second approval. This one is just for infrastructure. The approval for the manufacture, supply, installation, and operators training of disabled aircraft recovery system equipment at our airports. You know, some of these incidents we have on the runways at times is part of ICAO's specification for your airports to be certified. The International Civil Aviation Organization, the last time they came for audit, it was one of the minors they gave to us that we don't have enough recovery equipment. So sometimes when you now have the incident, if you remember, something happened at the Abuja airport. Was it in December or January when there was an airplane that had a problem as it was landing? It now disrupted flight because we have only one runway in Abuja. It disrupted flight operations in the whole country for about 2 or 3 hours because flights that were about to take off to Abuja could not come. The ones about to take off, and it was chaos. For 2-3 hours, it was chaos in the whole country that day because there was no immediate recovery equipment to recover those aircrafts immediately from the tarmac so that other aircraft approaching can land. We had to go and beg some other people, some other entities to come and help us remove that aircraft on that day. As Federal Airport, as Aviation and FAN, we didn't have any equipment to remove that aircraft. So we got approval for that as part of ICAO's requirement in the sum of 4.2 billion and a fraction, inclusive of VAT, with a completion period of 12 months to supply and train, and also to train the handlers of these equipments to handle them and remove disabled aircraft from our runways. Thank you.
I had expected that the Honorable Minister of Interior will join us to shed more light on what I talked about, the issue of the Nigerian revised visa policy that hopefully will be operationalized in the next 1 month. And like I said, this will reduce the visa processing time to about 48 hours. And it will also make it possible for other people to be captured under the visa on arrival policy. I thought that I should just make that known to you once again. I'll open this floor now. We've had like 7 ministers, plus me, 8 that have given this briefing. It's a bumper one. I expect that you minimize the questions so that we can all live here. Yes, the lady with the scarf. Answer first before I now bring in my colleagues. I think the first one directed at me was the issue of, is it the one for cyber security? Levy. The position of government is that that policy has been suspended. That policy has been put on hold. That is the position of government for now. It is undergoing some form of review. It was reiterated in council yesterday. You know that today's council is a continuation of the council meeting of yesterday. So I can tell you the cyber security levy has been put on hold. It is being reviewed by government. For now, it is on hold. Thank you. Then there was the issue of Bloomberg asked a question on the timeline for visa policy. The Minister of Interior asked that he'll be given between 3 and 4 weeks to conclude on the new visa regime. So within the next 4 weeks, maximum about a month, we should see a new visa policy regime for Nigeria. And you asked what is the time for the visa. The Minister of Interior is aiming to achieve visa processing within 48 hours. visa process, meaning that if you put in your application, because the whole process is now being computerized, it will go through a lot of checks. If you are a person of interest, or if you are somebody who has some criminal record, it will be seen from the database. So all that is being put together. The aim is that within 48 hours that you apply for Nigerian visa, you're going to get it, because everything will be online now. The human man-to-man or woman-to-man contact will now be eliminated from there. I think that's all about that. Let me bring in the Honorable Minister of Aviation to answer the questions directed at him.
Now, the first question regarding incidents we have had of late on our runways. Well, it is paradoxical that you are asking me that question as to what are we doing? Why is it paradoxical? Because there are some people out there who say they are industry experts, who are saying the minister has no role to play. The minister should shut up. Experts. Yet, the question comes to me everywhere I go. What are you doing as Aviator 001 in the country? This is the kind of confusion that they create out there, and they want to teach me my job. They want to interpret the law. For me, a member of the INABA, they want to interpret the law for me. So I've told them over and over that if you were experts and so good as experts, why is our industry like this up to this point? People who have no stake, who have no investment in the system, claiming all the while to be experts and teaching, trying to teach people their jobs. So I disagree with them respectfully, and I've said my duty to answer your question is to supervise the regulators and ensure they do their work, and that is what I am doing. And that's what I did in the case of Dana. If you have consistent incidents like this coming from a sector and perhaps a particular airline, as minister, you say, can you carry out an audit of this airline in terms of their safety procedures, their maintenance procedures, their personnel training, their financial audits? Carry it out, which is what I did. And this is what I would do, throughout the industry. For any airline showing signs of kwashoko, financial kwashoko. That is what I am doing to answer your question. And I will continue to do it. And for those who say I'm interfering, I'm sorry. They should sit down and see more interference for the safety and the lives of Nigerians. I will not play politics. I will not sit akimbo, hands akimbo, when the lives of Nigerians are at stake. I said it before, and I'll say it again, that the last thing I want as Minister of Aviation is to have blood on my hands. They said I should be more temperate in my language. How? I should not be truthful to Nigerians? Is there anything diplomatic about the lives of Nigerians? Perhaps we have been truthful in the past about audit situation of our airlines. Perhaps we would not have lost some people in the past in those deadly crashes. Our duty, therefore, is to tell the truth, face the truth, and let Nigerians not to hide it from Nigerians. So for me, I will continue to breathe down the back of the regulators. That's what I want to do. For those who are saying they are experts, they should please get ready for the rough ride with me. I'll breathe down the back of the regulators. I will ensure that they do their work. I will not interfere in the sense of directly implementing the measures, but I will interfere in terms of asking questions from the regulators and directing them that they must do their job diligently. The purpose of the law to say the NCA should be regulators and they should be independent, the purpose of that law is to ensure that people don't interfere, to water down, I repeat, to water down regulatory steps and measures they have taken. But the purpose of the law cannot be to stop enforcement of those regulatory measures by the regulatory agencies. In other words, when a minister says, can you enforce your measures? Enforce them to the strictest standards. That cannot be interference. That is supervision. to ensure you do your work. I'm not saying, okay, I'll give you an example. You want to turn the NCA into gods of their own? Is that what the law means? That the NCA should be a god unto himself, or the head of the NCA? So, for instance, in the face of obvious danger, if an aircraft is supposed to take off with 8 tires, and the head of a regulatory agency says, no, I think 6 tire, 2 is missing, but you can take off. And the supervisor says, no, ensure the 8 tires are complete. Would that be seen as interference? Would that be seen as interference? So if the purpose of supervision is to strengthen your hand to do your job, I'm sorry, I apologize. I disagree with them. That cannot be interference. That is proper supervision. So that's what we are doing. We'll carry out an audit of any airline showing such signs. We have started with Dana. Anyone showing such consistent signs of danger for the purpose of safety of the lives of Nigerians, will we, in quotes, interfere? And they should be ready for that until I leave this office. The other question regarding compliance with the enforcement order, it's very simple. What we will do, first of all, is to sell the e-tags in advance. In fact, you asked a question about our compatriots, the military. We will sell the e-tags to them in advance. So there will be no question of arguments at the gates. But then, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces has taken the lead himself. He said, don't exclude me. Bring the e-tags from my cars, or presidential cars that will pass through those e-gates, and we'll buy. So if the commander-in-chief has taken that position, he has led by example, who among the military high command will want to disobey? And for your information, we are going to plant cameras everywhere. We have some cameras already. We have, and in these days of social media, you can be sure that those pictures will go viral. If you touch any of our aviation people at the gates who just trying to do their jobs, you can be sure that your bosses will discipline you. Because I am sure that the military chiefs will not take it from any of their subordinates who will go beating people up, harassing people who are doing their jobs. They are just carrying out their jobs. So we are ready for the rough ride with anybody at all. We are going to put cameras everywhere. We are going to insist that they take their pictures. Take anybody. Don't fight. Take the picture of the person. Take it and show everybody. Let it go viral. Bring it to us. Let us report him to his bosses and see where that will land all of us. So we are ready to enforce this in order to maximize our profits, our revenue. So just to make it clear that in respect of this issue, we are not imposing fresh taxes on Nigerians. No. In fact, Nigerians have already been paying for years access to the airports. So it's not a fresh tax. We are only maximizing it. We are optimizing it from people who have not been paying. So this is actually aimed at VIPs who have not been paying, not at the ordinary people who have always paid anyway.
The first question was about the recent labor union peaceful protest with regards to the recently increased tariff for Band A customers in Nigeria electricity supply industry. Let me first make it abundantly clear that we are in democracy. So there are fundamental human rights that you cannot deny people. It's the right of the labor to protest peacefully and to come up with their demands from the perspective they saw what we did. It is clearly allowed, it is legitimate, and it is understandable. So we cannot stop them from organizing a peaceful protest and laying down their demand. Let me make that clear. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is also a listening government. We have heard their demands. We're going to look at it. We'll make further engagements, and I believe we are going to reach a peaceful resolution with the labor, because no government can succeed without the cooperation, collaboration, and partnership with the labor union. So we welcome the peaceful protest, and I'm happy that it was not a violent protest. They've made their position known, and government has taken in their demand, and we are looking at it. But one thing that I want to state here is, from the statistics of those affected by the hike in tariff, the people on the road yesterday who embarked on the peaceful protest, more than 95% of them were not affected by the increase in this price, in the tariff of electricity. They still enjoy almost 70% government subsidy in the tariff they pay, because the average cost of generating, transmitting and distributing electricity is no less than 180 naira today. A lot of them are paying below 60 naira. So they still enjoy government subsidy. So when they say we should reverse the recently increased tariff, sincerely, it's not affecting them. That's one position. And my appeal again is that they should please not derail or distract our transformation plan for the industry. We have a clearly documented reform roadmap to take us to our desired destination, when we are going to have reliable, functional, cost-effective, and affordable electricity in Nigeria. It cannot be achieved overnight, because this is a decade of almost 60 years which we are trying to correct. Nobody promised us or assured us that the road will be smooth. We know it's going to be rough, but we must weather the storm, which is going to be temporary. It's a lot of sacrifice on everybody, from the government side, from the people's side, from the private sector side. So we must bear this sacrifice for a while for us to have a permanent gain. And I don't want us to go back to the situation we were in February and March, where we had very low generation. We all felt the impact of this, whereby electricity supply was very low. And every home, every household, every company, every institution felt it. From the little reform that we embarked upon since the beginning of April, we have seen the impact that electricity has improved. And it can only get better. So I'm appealing to everybody that we should not stall this reform that we have embarked upon. We are aiming somewhere and we'll achieve it. That is the first question. The second question has to do with the national grid disturbance and collapse that you talked about. Like I told you, the power assets are weak. They are dilapidated, and they are fast, even further deteriorating. So disturbances are bound to happen. But it is how well are we able to handle this disturbance that will not lead to a grid collapse because of the fragile national grid that we have. The approvals of today is also a step towards ensuring that grid collapses in Nigeria become a thing of the past. Like I told you, there was a new approval for a 93-kilometer transmission line in the southeast. There is also an approval for 15 numbers of earthing transformers and earthing reactors to strengthen the grid. You understand? And we also got approval for emergency restoration systems so that we can easily repair those power assets in terms of transmission towers, transmission lines that were vandalized in various parts of the country. We all know the predicament of the northeastern part of the country today. They've been in darkness for over 2 weeks. This is a result of vandalization. So the approval we got today was to ensure that we're able to mobilize contractors to sites to fix all these damaged power assets. So fixing the grid is not a one-day event. It's a continuous thing. And we ensure that very soon our grid will become stronger and have extended or improved capacity. Then the last question has to do with the issue of generators approved for the FCT. Let me mention here that the generator approval, which is now compelled to be a CNG generator, is for backup purpose. It is for precautionary purpose, for those areas that are high security locations. Because today we use solar street lights in Abuja. But in case the battery storage system goes down when it is still dark, so for the 1 or 2 hours, we have a backup generator. That is what the approval is for. And it is our own target administrative power to ensure that those generators are not useful. And there will not be need for such generators any longer. So I believe that the first thing is solar panels, and the battery energy storage system, and there's also the grid connectivity with the Abuja Disco. But if all these three fails, then the generator becomes useful. So it is precautionary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen of the press. Let me conclude like I always do. Much as we strive to give you information as much as possible, you can see that we had 7 ministers today with me. It's a bumper edition. We've taken you through all that has happened between yesterday and today in the Federal Executive Council. This administration is committed to ensuring that information flows from government to Nigerians, but we also demand of you, as always, to be responsible, to report honestly, to also report patriotically in the interest of our country. Thank you for listening.